is Monday, the 13th day of July 2020, and Morning Cafe is right here with you to take you throughout or to ensure that we grace your week throughout up until Friday as we update you on what is happening in the world of news, as we also entertain you, as we give you lots and lots of content that is indeed worth your view. And of course, Karibu Sana. My name is Linda Alela. It's always a pleasure to ensure that I take you through all this. And I'm crossing fingers and hoping that you will be with me right from now all the way to 9 a.m. in the morning. I have so much in store for you in terms, of course, of content. We'll be taking a look at the newspapers. We take a look at the stories that we have prepared. We also later on get to enjoy some Monday blues or some Monday music, because it's pretty much important now that you're walking away from the weekend. You don't just close on Matters music or Matters enjoyment. You at least ebb off slowly by slowly. So we ensure that your Monday also is covered, even as we give you breakfast tips of the week. Guess what? We are preparing something special for you, just so you would get to know that at this time when you're at home, quarantine manenos and all that, you need not to worry about figuring out what you're going to have for breakfast. No more bread every other time. And I'm not saying that bread is bad, but at least just get creative a bit for the sake of you and for the sake of your family. And most importantly, we'll be taking a look at the issues that are making center stage in the world of news, the current affairs. We delve deep into giving you a comprehensive look over the same. So it's a full house of activities. It's a beehive of activities. Karibu Sana. Make sure that you keep it right here. And how do I get to know that you are walking with me? Interact with us. Hashtag Morning Cafe at TV47 is our Twitter handle, at Linda_Alela. We'll get to sample some of your comments as we proceed with the show. So Karibu, we start off right now with the stories that have been prepared by my team. Like I said, we have so much. So we've been taking a look at the events throughout the weekend, and now we cross over to exactly updating you on the same, even as we take a look at the numbers that have gone high, hitting 10,000, which is pretty much unfortunate. We'll be delving deep into understanding, where are we headed to as a country? This is quite unfortunate. But first of all, let's pick this. And a section of worshippers attended church services yesterday, even before the planned phased reopening date. In some churches, the government guidelines were not even followed, with the church leaders defending the move. Mwangi Maina reports.
A spot check on Sunday morning in various Nairobi estates, and voices of worshippers and their instruments were high just like everything was back to normal. For 3 months now, these voices have been muted due to COVID-19 and the containment measures issued by the government. But these churches resuming their normal operations even before the date that was set by President Uhuru Kenyatta for a phased reopening of churches. At Deliverance Church, Waruku, congregants had their masks on, observing physical distancing and hand washing. Those above 58 years and children below 13 years are not allowed.
There is a social distance, and every person is sitting at the required distance by the government. We have also made sure that the service, meanwhile, the children are not there. It is meant for the adults, just as the government said. And we are also making plans that those who are not here with us, we can be able to reach them at home by streaming our service live to them.
In some churches, such as the African Divine Church, there was no hand washing points. The faithfuls congregated together with no physical distancing or wearing of face masks until the cameras flashed. Members, including those above 58 years old, worshipping just like any other Sunday before the pandemic.
Kuna wale tumetumana waende walete sanitizer, lakini bado wanakuja wako tu kwa duka. Ndio tukua tumeambia walete na waweke maji, watu wanawe na wawe wasafi kufuata maagizo ya serikali.
The situation is not any different at a church called Another Chance Ministries. Faithfuls danced merrily, forgetting social distancing.
Nilisikia furaha sana. Niliona nikana kwamba nimeanza tena upya. Na furaha yangu inazidi kiasi. Nimefurahia sana. Hata nimesema Mungu ashukuriwe kwa makanisa kufunguliwa.
Kanisa ni wazee. Tukiwaachia vijana kanisa hawezi enda. itaisha. Lakini tukiwa wazee pale, ndio wazee ndio wakiangalia hata Biblia inasema wakati wa Yesu Biblia inasema kwamba wakati walikuwa mdogo, maandiko yanasema kwamba alikuwa anakaa katikati ya wazee akiuliza maswali, alikuwa anauliza wazee, hakuwa anauliza vijana.
At PCEA Baraka, just like other PCEA churches, the service was streamed live with preparations underway to host congregants next Sunday. Most of the churches remain closed, waiting for the official opening. Half loaf is better than none, and church leaders have pledged to continue with their services following the guidelines put in place by the Interfaith Council and the Ministry of Health to help combat the spread of coronavirus. TV47 from PCEA Baraka in Muthaiga, Kiambu County. My name is Mwangi Maina.
Well, that story by Mwangi Maina will equally form the basis of our conversation this morning as we delve deep into understanding why the rush and whether indeed this was the right move to take. Meanwhile, the Catholic Church will reopen on Sunday next week. Now, their Anglican counterparts, however, will remain closed, with All Saints Cathedral in Nairobi saying that the church has set up an internal task force to advise on COVID-19 measures, as Mohammed Ali now reports.
Following the presidential directives on a phased reopening of places of worship, churches have taken different stands. The Catholic Church will reopen on Sunday next week. Cardinal John Njue says priests and other church leaders will be taken through the guidelines from the 14th of this July.
The guidelines will be shared by all the deans in our 14 deaneries in the Archdiocese of Nairobi.
However, the Anglican Church is not reopening its doors for congregants anytime soon. The church has set up an internal task force to advise on COVID-19 measures.
The All Saints Cathedral, we will not open the church until when we feel we are ready. Let me clarify. It's not because of the limitation of 100 people. It has more to do with the safety of our people.
The religious leaders have urged Kenyans to adhere to the government protocols and guidelines in order to curb the spread of the COVID-19 pandemic.
I urge you all to follow the pastoral liturgical guidelines and the guidelines given by the Ministry of Health to ensure that we all remain safe in our places of worship.
Other places of worship that will remain closed include the Christ is the Answer Ministries, Sitam, Parklands Baptist Church, Nairobi Chapel, and Jamia Mosque, Nairobi. Muhammad Ali, TV47, Nairobi.
Well, and away from that, to a different story, the impeachment motion against Kitui Governor Charity Ngilu will be tabled at the County Assembly on Wednesday. This after the High Court gave a green light to the MCAs to proceed with the motion. And now, Ngilu will be required to either appear in person or send two legal counsels before 10 a.m. Wednesday. The county boss had moved to court to stop the impeachment motion, but her case was thrown out for lack of merit. She is facing, among other cases, abuse of office charges. All right, and we'll be having Kidi Mwaga joining us so that we can expound more on the newspapers. But before we even get to that point, I think it's important that we take a look at this particular story, as the Senate will be meeting tomorrow to resolve the current revenue allocation standoff, and 19 senators are opposed to the proposed revenue allocation formula that will see their counties lose funds.
The Senate meets after it failed to agree on the proposed formula, which has received an opposition from 19 senators from less populous counties. According to the formula, 19 counties are likely to lose up to 17 billion shillings. Senators from across the political divide in the affected counties now sharply opposed to the formula. ODM senators are said to have been rallied to oppose the formula. Whether their respective counties will gain or lose, the ODM side wants the current formula retained before deliberations are completed on a new formula. The Jubilee side, on the other hand, wants the proposed formula to be used arguing that it will see more counties benefit. Counties in the northern region, eastern and coastal counties, are the biggest losers in the proposed formula. Wajir County is the biggest loser if the new formula is passed, losing about 2 billion Kenya shillings. Senate was to hold Kamukunji on Monday last week but was cancelled at the last minute. Governors from the northern region have opposed the formula, claiming it is anti-devolution. Governors from the northern region have opposed the formula, claiming it is anti-devolution. Leaders from northern Kenya says their counties do not have abilities to collect revenue as opposed to other counties such as Nairobi and Kiambu.
They want to take 553 million from the budget of Samburu. They also want to take another 127 million from the budget of Kajiado. Counties have already made their budgets.
Hatutakubali kugawanywa kikabila wala hatuweza kugawanywa kwamba watu wengine walio na pesa. Hatujaona pesa inatolewa kwa tajiri, inatolewa kwa maskini, inapelekwa kwa tajiri.
Senator elected in Isiolo County, I am going to oppose it with all the energy that I have.
If the formula is passed, Narok will lose 981 million shillings, Isiolo 869 million shillings, Kilifi 859 million shillings, and Turkana will lose 547 million shillings. Other losers include Kitui County, which will lose 432 million shillings, Makueni County 423 million shillings, Samburu will lose 403 million, Taita Taveta will lose 399 million shillings, Tharaka Nithi 338 million shillings, and Vihiga County will lose 239 million shillings. Nandi will be the biggest gainer with an extra 2 billion Kenya shillings.
All right, now the Amani National Congress Party leader Musalia Mudavadi has lashed out at Kakamega County Commissioner, claiming she was using President Uhuru Kenyatta's name to frustrate him. Mudavadi was speaking in Lugari, Kakamega County, where he claimed that a number of his meetings have been blocked by the county boss, citing orders from above.
Sisi tunashangaa. Jana tulikuwa kwa Omboko. Kabla tujafika kwa Omboko, magari yako pale ya polisi. Ati sisi pahali nilizaliwa Vihiga, ati nisiweze kuzungumza na watu huko. Juzi wakazuia Weta asiende nyumbani. Kwa boma ya Malulu wakatupa tear gas. Hapa wakashika Sabula huko. Alienda petrol station, anaambiwa wewe hapa. Tunafurahi polisi walikuwa hapa, lakini kulikuwa na watu walikuwa wanataka kuleta kizuizi ati tusiwe hapa. I want to make it very clear that let us not undermine democracy in our republic.
And still on the same note, Musalia Mudavadi now claims that leaders in Western Kenya have failed the region in development. Mudavadi says that the leaders have had budget allocations every year, but keep begging the president to deliver development for the region.
ANC party leader Musalia Mudavadi has condemned Western leaders for continuously undermining the power of devolution. Speaking during a political rally in Vihiga County, Mudavadi agonized that development gains are yet to be actualized in the region despite leaders having a budget allocation.
Governors wetu wana budget yao. Kakamega gets almost 12 billion kila mwaka. Vihiga almost 5 billion kila mwaka. Bungoma karibu kama hiyo 12 billion. Busia inapata labda 7 billion every year. Trans Nzoia inapata. Nyinyi mwanza kufanya hesabu tangu tulete ugatuzi katika Kenya. Ni pesa ngapi zimeingia Kakamega County?
The ANC party leader also noted Kenya's crippled economy, saying that the incoming leaders will have a big task of correcting the mess left by the previous regimes.
Mimi nataka niwaambie kwamba pahali tuko, yule ambaye atakuwa rais, na mimi naomba Mungu anipatie nafasi hiyo, I want to tell you this. The next government ina kibarua ya kurejesha uchumi kwa barabara vizuri. There is a challenge. Madeni makubwa katika Kenya hii.
Mudavadi's sentiments come amidst a political rift between leaders in Western Kenya.
And at least 51 guards are reported to have tested positive for COVID-19. This even as the guards have been left with the responsibility of checking the temperature of people who access the buildings they guard as one of COVID-19 containment measures. Calvin Chitwa now reports.
For the last 3 years, Sami Kiprotich has been a guard at this hotel in Eldoret town. His key responsibility was to ensure security of customers. Most of the time, he could sit on this chair for the better part of the day. But with the outbreak of COVID-19, Kiprotich has assumed an extra role. That of checking the temperature of every person who enters the hotel. And his employer, a security company, bought him a thermogram. And like many security guards, he has to report any customers who exhibit any COVID-19 related symptoms.
Haya mafunzo ya kupima tumefunzwa na wakubwa wetu. Maana hii kampuni yetu iko na supervisor, iko na manager na iko na director.
His employer gave him a handwritten note on the symptoms, but of the bigger concern is the temperature above 37 degrees.
Kitu ambaye hii inaweza kubadilisha sana sana ukiangalia ni points. Points unaweza kuja upimu hapo upate ni 36.7 na unapoenda kwa ile supermarket unapata ni 36.6. Unapoenda kwa supermarket nyingine tena unaweza pata ni 36.2.
The Kenya National Union of Private Guards General Secretary Isaac Andabwa says the role of guards is to complement national security agents, but assuming the role of testing and checking people who might have COVID-19 puts them at high risk of contracting the disease.
Ukipata mtu joto iko juu, nina wasigino nao wanajua vile wanafanya kufikia hapo. Mimi sina lingine.
Uweze kuchukua thermometer kama hii, alafu unaamuka asubuhi unapatia bawabu, unamwambia wewe enda kwa gate pale, anza kuchukua nini temperature hawa, na wewe mwenyewe kwanza hujamfunza kuhusu hii how to use this.
Andabwa says many are not well empowered on how to test and what to do if they discover a person has COVID-19.
Tusikimbie kupatia bawabu extra responsibility bila kuwapatia capacity at the same time without compensating them.
He says the extra responsibility requires them to be given basic skills. Calvin Chitwa, TV47, Uasin Gishu County.
And elsewhere, Njoro Member of Parliament Charity Kadhambi has condemned the recent evictions from Mau Forest. Kadhambi says that many evictees have been left homeless amidst the COVID-19 pandemic. She is now calling on the president to order the evictions stopped. Over 20,000 households have been evicted in the area in the last few days. The eviction continues tomorrow.
Kwa mvua wako kwa jua, manyumba zao na watoto wao zimebomolewa. Saizi wataalamu wamesema COVID-19 watu walio ambao wameriski maisha zao zaidi ni watoto na wazee. Wale wazee wote mliona wakiwa evicted na watoto saizi wako kwa baridi wakati kama huu. Sasa kwangu ni masikitiko zaidi, na pia tunaposema osha mikono, sanitize, watu kama hao jameni, hata ukiwaambia keep distance, wata keep distance wakiwa wapi? Na wameondolewa kwa manyumba, hakuna maji hata ya kunywa, hakuna mahali wako, tutakuwa tunaongea mambo gani? Nataka ni muombe rais wetu wa Kenya akasimamishe evictions ile inaendelea nchi yetu. Na pia nikisimama hapa nitakuwa ninaomba rais wetu akasimamishe evictions zote zile zinaendelea Kenya. Na pia tunaomba akasimamishe ile destruction ama ile demolitions zinaenda kuanzia pia Ngong Forest.
And on that very note, it's time that we now take a short break as we cross over to expounding more on what is on the newspaper. Kidi Mwaga, civic engagement and legal expert, will be joining me, so I will take a look at the stories that have been captured. We also would wish to hear from you. #Morning Cafe at Linda_Lela TV47 or our Twitter handle. And of course, you can as well stream live on Facebook at TV47. Also on YouTube is TV47. Let's come back after this break and take a look at the papers. All right, welcome back to Morning Cafe, and with me here is the People Daily. We'll also have the Standard newspaper and the Daily Nation if time will allow us, but most importantly, we'll delve much on this as we take a look at the stories that have been captured right from the front page all the way, and of course in depth, just get the view of the guest that I have on board, Kidi Mwaga, who's a civic engagement and legal expert. And of course, he joins me this morning to expound some more on the papers and equally on some of the stories that we've touched on. Good morning, Kidi.
Good morning, Linda.
Good to have you.
good to have you. I mean, it's pleasant being here once again.
Yes. And of course, I think you're here to help us expound some more on some of the stories that have been captured in the newspaper. And of course, just try and weigh in regards to what you think of the stories that have been captured. And I'll start off with the People Daily. Yes. The front page of the newspaper or the People Daily, the biggest story is 2022 factory in county's cash row. And you know now that to approximately for a week right now or two, we've been grappling, or maybe the senators have been battling on how best they can ensure that they get to share revenue at the level of the different counties. And there's been obviously a stalemate that is ongoing. And one thing that now comes out to the fore or to a light is the fact that there are likelihoods that there are some senators who are playing the 2022 card courtesy of this, and the political risk, as has been captured on, of course, the front page of the People Daily, is that whereas marginalized areas have cried foul of a likelihood of losing cash, close to 20 senators who intend to run for governor in the next elections fear that any decision leading to a drop in funds allocation to the counties could be used against them by their rivals. Detailed on page 4. But what do you make of this one?
Well, one, I think that looking at shareable revenue or distribution of shareable revenue within the prism of 2022 elections is being short-sighted at best. Yeah. Because you go back to the Division of the Revenue Act and its provisions both in the previous year and going forward, and you realize that the government has had to grapple with, among other things, of course, diminishing income in terms of taxes. And yesterday, I remember Senator Pogishio, the majority leader, pleading with counties that right now there is no county that is going to lose funds. So I think the governors and, of course, the senators need to take it easy, especially the government having given the commitment that no county is going to lose funds in this financial year.
All right, and speaking of which, again, of course, there are talks of secret meetings that have been held by who are considered to be the losers or the county that have lost. But even worse is that we acknowledge that we saw President Uhuru Kenyatta last week, towards the end of last week, coming in, trying to intervene, or better yet, to stamp authority and call upon the Senate leaders to ensure that this is addressed at the level of the counties. But unfortunately, this is not what we see today. Where does it place us in terms of ensuring that devolution is a success?
Well, going forward, devolution for the past 7 or 8 years has had its fair share of challenges. Yeah. Some of these challenges the country has sought to fix through the BBI process. And one of them is that, one, we have the shareable revenue distributed to the counties allocated on the basis of the previous financial years audited books of accounts, as opposed to the current scenario where we use the previous audited books of accounts, and that can take us 5-6 years back. So that usually means that there is usually a huge gap between what the country has collected and what then is distributed to the counties. And so in part of safeguarding devolution, as our best shot at ensuring that there is inclusive development, we think, in my estimation, needs to, one, place a plug on the least shareable revenue that then goes to the county. Let's say it is 45%, it's 40%. Yes, I think that would go. It would take us a step into ensuring that we are able to safeguard the gains of devolution.
All right, taking some of the emphasis that have been brought on board on the new formula. They say that besides population, basic equal share, poverty, land area development, personnel, emolument, and fiscal responsibility, the new formula places particular emphasis on county functions Under the arrangement, at least 29 counties gain more revenue, while 18 lose at least 1 billion shillings each. And in the proposal, the parameters of basic shareable revenue and population have each been allocated 20% and 18% respectively. Health, 17%, poverty, 14%. We'll be delving deep into this conversation as we proceed later on the broadcast, as we delve deep into matters current affairs. But coming back to the front page again, here we are, and matters politics have are here, found their way right on front page of the People Daily. And Uhuru Raila ready for BBI report, aware of strategies by Ruto allies. And when you look at what has been captured also in the Standard newspaper on the front page, is that they say that finally Jubilee or President Uhuru Kenyatta has succumbed to the pressure from Raila's side in terms of course, ensuring that some committees are led by certain people. Remember, this was the bone of contention last week when some leaders of ODM argued that in the event that Jubilee is going to take that route where they're going to incorporate the likes of Tanga Tanga in committee leaderships, it will mean that they are trying to strangle the efforts that they've put on board towards ensuring that BBI is a success. So here we are, page 6, captured on matters politics. What do you make of this, Idi?
Well, one, you realize that when the purge was going on in the Senate, what is called the Keleweke side, which of course is the president's side,
right,
on their own were not able to, let's say, get rid of Professor Kithure Kindiki, get rid of Susan Kihika, and his majority leader counterpart, Kipchumba Murkomen. So they had to rely, one, on the political eloquence of people like Senator James Orengo and Mutula Kilonzo Jr., who are not, of course, on their side.
Yeah.
So that it means going forward, that was a bipartisan support that they received in their attempt to clean up their houses. You know, all engagements are premised on good faith. And the opposition was, opposition quote unquote, was helping them during that purge in the hope that they were cleaning their house in order, putting their houses in order, so that when the BBI business comes to the floor of the House, then those business could be transacted without bottlenecks. So that if now the president's team wanted to still put people whom the ODM and the NASA side is not feeling that is going to help push forward the BBI agenda, then of course that was definitely a recipe for disaster. Yes.
All right. Now that you spoke about the BBI agenda, I think I'll ask a question, but later on when we cross over to that story. But yes, here we are. The BBI report is set for handover as Raila's return is eagerly awaited in the country, and indeed the Building Bridges Initiative Task Force is ready to ensure that they present these findings anytime after the opposition chief arrives from the United Arab Emirates. So we wait to see what will play out in regards to the same, the winners, the losers, the people who support, and whether indeed it is going to be an advantage or a disadvantage to them, even as of course the people of Tanga Tanga or members of parliament allied to Deputy President William Ruto sort of feel like continue to cry foul, in as much as at some point they have argued that they are in support of the BBI. And whether it's going to be of interest to the common Mwananchi or not is indeed a question of wait and see. But let's go back to page 1, or the front page once again, and take a look at this story that also has been captured in regards to the reopening of churches and whether indeed it's the right direction that we've taken. It's also been captured extensively on page 2, as you can see right here. But first, let's see what is here. And no thanks, the churches that won't reopen. Section of religious groups from the Christian and Muslim faiths have rejected government guidelines, including the limited time of worship as well as the number of people allowed entry, among other conditions, extensively captured on page 2, as worshippers still divide on regulations for part opening or for the part of the opening. Jamia Mosque, ACK's All Saints Cathedral, and Faith Evangelist Ministries among places of worship that won't reopen soon. Kidi.
Yes.
And they opened some of them even before, of course, it was the actual day. As of yesterday, they were out there worshiping. Is it this? How much is it painting a picture of how much indeed we were in diet of spiritual healing or spiritual nourishment?
Oh well, the Bible says that seek you first the kingdom of God.
Yes.
Well, you realize that matters of faith play a prominent role in human life. And therefore, for a lot of people, matters feeding their spirituality entails going to church, being in that building, being in fellowship with one another. And therefore, if for the past 3-4 months, when they have been unable to have that opportunity to come together in fellowship, most of them have been feeling what I would call malnourished spiritually. But then you realize that it is the first time that this generation is dealing with a pandemic of this proportion. And therefore, there is delicate balancing act that is needed that not everyone may be entirely alive to. So that there are those who think, who want to put emphasis on resuming fellowship or worship, while there are those who want to observe social distance. I think a balance can be struck between these two. Because one, you realize that to this extent, we still do not have vaccine in sight. So I think that the churches that want to really operate have to consider the guidelines given out to ensure that we are able to keep our people safe. Because if we don't, the only thing we want to do the only profit we want to have in the year 2020 is to remain alive.
But just who between the two is playing the holier than thou card? Because, well, some of them arguing that yes, we need to keep our people alive, holier than thou. Others arguing that we need a spiritual nourishment, holier than thou. Who's this? Who? I mean, is it the level of hypocrisy that is being painted in church today?
Well, I am a Christian myself, and I will tell you this. I have interacted with people I would call religious fundamentalists within Christian circles. Folks who want to put their brain in the back burner and tell us that, we do not use matters intellect in making some of these decisions. But there is a reason God gave all of us intellect, intellect that He denied animals. So I think that it is incumbent upon church leadership to rely. There is a reason why also God permitted us to have scientific data and evidence. I think our religious leaders must use religious data and evidence in making some of these decisions. Yes.
All right.
As opposed to wanting to rely entirely on providence.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. And now we're talking about the churches, and I'm thinking of speaking in tongues and how much, across Nairobi you could pass different places and you could just hear, how much people were out there speaking in tongues, praying for once, they got that relief and they had to, that date with their maker once again. And it just reminded me of a story that one of us prepared yesterday. I think that was worth indeed a story, playing in tongues. That is in the world of sports. And of course, that was a very nice story by our very own Julius Juma. I hope my team would be able to play that afresh later on as we proceed, or maybe as we get to wind up on that and cross over to a different sports. But that is later. Playing in tongues indeed was a great story prepared by our own. But let's go back to this. Now that we are on page 2 of the People Daily, we just switch a bit. And the Ngilo factor is here. And Ngilo has been invited to defend herself on the Oyster bid. That is on page 2 of the People Daily. Kitui County Assembly Speaker George Ndoto has summoned the governor, that is Charity Ngilu, to appear before the House during the tabling of her impeachment motion that is scheduled for Wednesday. And this is the story that this is the question that I said I wanted to ask in regards to the BBI, now that you talked about the people who are in favor of the BBI.
Yes.
And we've seen Ngilu equally, in favor of the BBI, just as her counterpart, or maybe her fellow boss, that is Kirinyaga Governor Anne Waiguru, who was in a way vindicated, I would want to say, in regards to the impeachment motion that was presented to the Senate, and the Senate saved her. And the talk was that indeed the Senate saved her courtesy of the BBI. Do you foresee a situation like this? I mean, even before I don't want to preempt what to play out at the level of the county assembly, but I mean, it is almost obvious that there are likelihoods that, this will proceed to the level of the Senate in terms of ensuring that they save Ngilu.
I am cautious not to say that Anne Waiguru was saved courtesy of BBI.
All right.
Well, I happen to be one of the proponents of BBI, one of those people who participated intimately in that process.
Yes.
But then during the hearing at the Senate, one, you realize that the county assembly, through their council, you know, they impeached Governor Waiguru on 18 grounds. By the time they were coming to the Senate, their case was premised on only 2 grounds.
Yeah.
Secondly, you know that it is a sacred principle in law that he who alleges must prove. And then the council came before the floor of the Senate, made allegations, far-reaching allegations, instead of substantiating beyond reasonable doubt, or, I mean, removing doubts in the minds of the Senate. What did he do then? He asked the Senate to go and, begin a fresh inquiry. Well, Section 3 of the County Governments Act provides that the Senate can act as a fact-finding mission, but I think the council in that regard failed the people of Kirinyaga. So I think, for me, in my estimation, that could have been the grounds for which the Senate then cleared Anne Waiguru of personal, involvement, and even directed that certain people take personal responsibility. I think that one thing that they have now the Kitui people are getting right is one, they are giving Governor
Charity Ngilu,
yes, well, an opportunity to defend herself.
Yes.
Because the principle of natural justice is so sacred that one, there must be fair hearing, that the person must be given adequate time and resources to defend themselves. Yes, and they must also be given sufficient notice. So I think that in that regard, the people of Kitui are getting it right. So that if and when Charity Ngilu is culpable of certain wrongdoings, like breach of the Constitution, when she fails integrity test, let her face the axe.
All right.
Yes.
Okay, we'll be expounding some more later on the broadcast in regards to this, even as we await of what will play out, that is on Wednesday when she faces the county assembly, of course, in defense of herself, as the panelist as the panel has said, or the guest of the day has said. Now, coming to the numbers of COVID-19, pretty much unfortunate that we have hit the 10,000 mark, and as captured on the People's Daily, the front page, just giving us a breakdown on what is playing out at the level of the counties in terms of numbers, and also just the fact that, we recorded 379 new cases as of yesterday. This is out of 7,050 samples. And now the case has hit 10,105. And of course, after 215,037 cumulative tests were conducted, 2,881 recoveries have been registered so far, and 185 fatality count is where we stand out. This is a breakdown as given by the People Daily on what is happening on the counties. But just coming to our story as we expound some more on matters COVID-19 in the country, on page 2, still delving deep into that. And as of yesterday, remember we said that we recorded an oldie who got this at some point in time. So the procedure turns away. So here it is. The procedure turns away Kenyans from taking COVID-19 test, and about 45% of Kenyans are now willing to take the COVID-19 test due to fear of the test procedure. Are not willing, yes, due to fear of the test procedure, a new report shows. And this, of course, is highly determinant on how able we're going to be in terms of ensuring that we tame the spread of the virus. And I think I remember very well at some point in time we said when we conduct a mass testing, this will come in handy to us, ensuring that we are able to deal with the pandemic. But it's clear that Kenyans are not willing to go out there. And I think, Kitty, I don't know whether you've gone through the test, but just looking at it sends shivers down your spine. Like, given a choice, maybe a majority of Kenyans would say, no, I do not want to go through that kind of test. Having someone putting something inside your nose, and it is just quite uncomfortable. I've not had the privilege of going for the test. Yeah.
But then I would say that desperate moments call for desperate measures.
Sure.
And in life, we work with what we have, not what we want. As it is, this containing the virus,
yes,
will of course definitely require that we have to test, we have to isolate, we have to contact trace, and in that regard, however much it may not be a pleasant exercise, I think people must come out and get tested, so that we are able to then contain the virus as we should. Otherwise, we will not get the profit that we say that we need to get in 2020, and that is remaining alive. Yes.
All right, and still talking about the aftermath of what has played out at this time that we are dealing with COVID-19, a survey, now this one coming from the Ministry of Health, indicates that 900 schoolgirls are impregnated daily. At some point, this report was out there, and we're talking about teenage pregnancies going up, especially this time of COVID-19 when children are at home. And for a moment, we all disputed this, including the Ministry of Health itself, because there was not a clear indication as to where these reports are coming from. But as it is, then it looks like there's cause for alarm or cause for worry. What do you make of this?
Well, when schoolgirls are put on the family way, I mean, that is something that should alarm all of us.
Yeah.
Because whereas we want to legitimately hope that parents would take charge, but there is just so much that parents can do. I think the government needs to step in more aggressively to ensure that culprits are apprehended, are processed through the criminal justice system, so that, among other things, serve as a deterrent factor, so that folks who are putting children, young girls in the family way are then able to account for their actions. But then, of course, that is a serious cause of alarm. Yes.
All right.
But then, as before, as much as we hope that government will do that, we must not shirk the responsibility that we need to play as parents, as guardians, as big brothers and big sisters. Yes.
All right. And still on COVID-19, surge in COVID-19 tests overwhelm health authorities, and relaxation of travel restrictions leaves state struggling with mega resources, with KEMRI IDH closed for lab services. And as it is, the government is overwhelmed by the huge numbers of Kenyans seeking to test for COVID-19 following last week's presidential lifting of inter-county movement restrictions. So in as much as Kenyans would be scared of taking the test, because then you need to move around, you need to operate, you probably need to be the person who's driving the PSV vehicle, or I mean the public service vehicle. So at some point in time, you are pushed to that level, like you said, you're left with no choice but to proceed and get tested. Yes. Where are these places in terms of dealing with the aspect of health, and what are the possibilities and likelihoods that we are not going to see a reverse of activities, as of course promised by the president, that in the event that the numbers continue to shoot up and we're not able to abide by the rules that have been given, looking at what happened in churches yesterday, I mean, what are the likelihoods of us going back to where we were?
You see, one thing I found the promise by the president that he would put in place again the restriction of movement measures and whatnot. I found that, I mean, it's given, it's something of the numbers are definitely going to surge, because one, you realize for about 3 months now, if not 2, we've been dealing with community transmission. And now that we have opened movement and people can move from inter-county movement, it means that people who are entirely asymptomatic are going to move and, of course, transfer the virus. And the numbers are definitely going to shoot. The best part is that of all the people found COVID-19 positive, only 20% will need hospitalization, and up to 80% will heal without showing any symptoms. So I think even if the numbers shoot, what we are now hoping for is that we get herd immunity by exposure, because already all of us are exposed. And statistics out there is pointing that out of every 10 people, 7 are
are positive.
Are positive. So like if we are 3 in this room, one of us could be COVID-19 positive.
Wow,
but I guess it's not me.
It cannot be me. We're only left with the camera guys. I don't know. Well, if only Marcus had a way of speaking, he would have said no. He's smiling and say it is not me either. So yes, we can only hope that we are safe. But bus firms get to meet state protocols, and transport operators are rushing against time to fumigate their vehicles as directed by Health Ministry. And this amid a report also that we had worked on from my team that says about 51, of course this one is outright, 51 guards are COVID-19 positive. And you know very well that these are the guards who are tasked to, you know, check out on the temperatures and check out on us to see to it whether we are okay in terms of COVID-19. What does it speak? I mean, should be worried, or I mean, should they also be scared of their lives?
Well, everyone needs to be scared. And for me, I think the only silver lining in all this is that up to 80% of those that shall be infected will heal without having to go to the hospital. And so that I think one thing people we need, in the spirit of being a brother's keeper and a sister's keeper, we need to identify people with underlying conditions, diabetes, cancer, whatnot, and help them to stay away from the front line. So that if you have a guard who is, let's say, is diabetic, is suffering from cancer or something, or has some of these underlying conditions, then you are able, as part of the human resource policy, you make sure that such guards are not posted in the front line, like testing people, taking people's temperature and whatnot. And if anything, give them leave to be home. And if you can pay, please give them something. As much as I know a lot of workers are grappling with pay cuts, yes, and job loss.
All right.
Yes.
And digital mobile app to track, register coronavirus cases. Now that we're talking about the tracks and tracking and just trying to find out who has it, who has not. Being our brother's keeper, the Ministry of Health has developed a COVID-19 tracking application, Medic Mobile, a primary data collection to provide both online and offline data entry functionality. Yes, the ministry has further adopted the use of mobile and web-based applications to collect data, monitor, and respond to the COVID-19 pandemic. And in addition, the ministry, through the Emergency Operations Center, that is EOC, has also embraced a surveillance system to monitor outbreak of the deadly virus across the 47 countries. The digital way is going to be helpful?
It should. Technology should help us to... in legal circles, we say technology should be an enabler of justice. And now that we are confronting this pandemic, the technology should help us to be able to track, isolate, identify and isolate people who have been COVID-19 positive. So for me, I am optimistic that technology is going to, one, help us deal with the virus, and help us remove human resource or people from the front line. The same way in military circles, you realize that emergence of drones helped remove human beings from the front lines. Yes. Yes, because anyway, this is war.
I agree. And now that you spoke of the front line and the frontline workers, I think we'll be observing a moment of silence, of course, upon the loss of Dr. Adisa Lugaliki. It's the first time that we hear since that loss. That is, of course, as a Morning Cafe team. So before we get to wind up on the newspaper review, we'll be observing that, but not before we touch on the cartoon edition. This is my chance to eat. This is the most unfortunate of course, the stories that we've captured, or maybe we've looked at on the People Daily newspaper. And these are the corrupt individuals, if you can see that. Corrupt individuals. And now, of course, there's a briefcase of goodies right here. COVID-19 World Bank aid, 4.6 billion. And not just this from the World Bank. We've seen very many donors coming out to say that they would want to dish out something for the people of Kenya to equally be able to deal with COVID-19 as expected. But it's obvious that some corrupt individuals will come out of this richer than they were before the first case was registered in the country. Kidi.
Well, it's a sad reality that there are people who will, of course, use their proximity to power to use this pandemic as an opportunity to line their pockets. It's very sad. But then it's the reality of our time, and we hope that the investigative agencies and the prosecutorial agencies are alert and are able to track how these monies are spent, and if and when there is lack of transparency, they are able to swing into action, and if and when there is any mischief, they are able to hold people to account.
All right, and bringing us to matters of politics.
Yes.
Again, Ruto allies want ODM leaders out of plan parliament posts. This is Zavula, and we can again look at the fact that we've also seen how much there is so much confusion within the Mulembe nation. That's a story that we captured earlier on before you came in. I mean, all this hullabaloo on matters politics, I know we've touched on it briefly, but I think we can as well touch on it as we get to wind up on the broadcast. The legislatures claim that the Orange Party cannot purport to play oversight role, yet they are working with the government. Now that we've touched on that, let's take a look at what is happening in the Mulembe nation. And Musalia Mudavadi coming out tough, arguing that, you know what, in as much as you're focused on pulling me out, I am focused on the race. My eyes are on the race, and I am going to ensure that I get this. This, as Wamunyinyi wants Musalia over Ford Kenya interference. Is it interference as they work together, exercising bromance with that is the leader of Ford Kenya party, Moses Wetangula?
Well, I think that Wetangula and Mudavadi are joined together by their tribulations, and not because of any love they have for one another.
All right.
Wetangula and Mudavadi are two fairly fine gentlemen who have been in the political scene for too long, but people who have consistently and repeatedly punched under their weight. Because, for instance, you see, by the time Wetangula was wrestling Ford Kenya from Musikari Kombo, Ford Kenya, as much as it was underperforming, it was not a shell that it is today. So that increasingly, Wetangula has succeeded in making sure that Ford Kenya is a bukusu, a small bukusu affair. Come to Mudavadi. Mudavadi is someone who has at some points been touted as a possible presidential candidate. But you see, Mudavadi has never learnt the art of folding his sleeves and dirtying his hands. So that for some reason, he has constantly played safe and hoped that there would be grand fallout somewhere, and then he would be a beneficiary. For instance, in 2013, if we all remember, is that Mudavadi, having been a deputy prime minister, was unable to even consolidate his backyard to the extent that when people went to the polls, that he could only muster a paltry 500,000, while Sonko then, as a senatorial candidate, was garnering 800,000 votes. I mean, these are two gentlemen whom politically I would call as non-starters and don't, in my estimation, don't deserve our time. Yes.
All right, that's pretty much unfortunate. We'll be delving deep into that. But all the same, thank you so much, Kidi Mwaga, for your great time. Kidi Mwaga is a civic engagement and legal expert, and we are grateful for your insights this morning as we wind up on the Matters newspaper. But like I had said, it's important that we take a moment of silence in 1 minute as we cross over for a break, observing and, of course, celebrating the life of Adisa, or Dr. Adisa Lugaliki, and the numerous other Kenyans who've lost their lives at this time of COVID-19, or courtesy of COVID-19, and again across the world. Welcome back to Morning Cafe. So much feedback coming on board. Thank you so much for keeping us company. It's now time for the current affairs segment, where we take a look at the stories that, again, we've touched on, and we just have a comprehensive look on the same. And joining me this morning is Vivian Tarr and Kijana Steve, analysts who will be helping me, try and put some sense in some of these stories that we've picked on. Our main focus this morning matters, of course, the Luhya on the Mulembe Nation, and main focus on Mudavadi himself, and of course now that he alleges intimidation from people who do not wish to see him prosper and find his way to 2022, and actually just being the president, or of course running for the presidency. And we'll also be taking a look at the impeachment proposal, or the impeachment motion that is ongoing in Kitui County, that is set to either, of course, root out or keep Governor Charity Kaluki Ngilu as the governor. We'll be delving deep into understanding what is likely to play out on a Wednesday. And we'll also take a look at how much the COVID-19 cases have surged in the country. Now we've hit the 10,000 mark, which is pretty much unfortunate, and what it means amid the progress that we are trying to make on reopening, or briefly, or small, like in bits, reopening the economy. Also take a look at the stalemate of the revenue sharing at the level of the counties. And lastly, we'll be taking a look at the uncertainty that surrounds the reopening of places of worship. So welcome again. Once again, and of course, join me as we take this, and we'll cross over to the last laps later on as we discuss matters entertainment. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning.
Good morning.
Good to have you.
Thank you very much.
Steve, good morning.
Good morning, Linda.
You well?
Good morning. I'm hearing you well, and it's a bright morning. I believe it's going to be a good discussion.
Still in Nyeri?
Yes.
Interestingly, watu wa ushago wamesema watu wa Nairobi wasikuje kutembea. There's so much stigmatization. Actually, one of us has worked on that story. And watu wa ushago wamesema, my friend, please don't come. Stay in Nairobi. Is it the case also in Nyeri?
I think there is that issue of watu wa ushago saying that nyinyi watu wa Nairobi ndio mko na corona. So I think, but that I think is not really the case. It's just that we've had a high rate of testing in Nairobi, and I tend to believe that's why the cases are as much. I believe these cases are only going to be directly proportional to the testing. For as long as we test more, we are going to expect more numbers. And so I think what we shall go, as much as we should embrace what Nairobi, it's also necessary that they self-quarantine themselves upon coming.
Yeah, well, all right. Steve was saying the other day, the next round we're going to have him on set live, see mambo na Skype. But I think we also need to pull that card and tell them, you know what, na nyinyi kaeni huko. Msikuja hapa mseme ati tena tumewambukisha. Hey, Vivian.
Nairobi, I need to also be live now.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Well, let's now cross over to the discussion now that we are all well and warmed up for the conversation. And we start off on the Mulembe Nation and the Mudavadi factor, now that he's out here alleging discrimination or intimidation. And of course, he says that his bid for 2022 presidency, running is on course, and nothing's going to change that. And just the other day, we were having a conversation on how much he's acting as though he doesn't want to join Jubilee, or he doesn't want to work with President Uhuru Kenyatta. But on the other hand, it's in black and white that he probably wants that, Vivian.
Maybe it's a case of pretending not to want something, just so that, the other person can court you into, playing hard to get, so to speak. But I don't know why Mudavadi would cry foul, because honestly, his notion of safe pair of hands doesn't hold water anymore. What safe pair of hands?
Yeah.
We want not only a charismatic leader, we want a leader who stands for change. We want a leader who can drive Kenya into the next frontier, a leader who can tackle corruption, a leader who has balls, so to speak. And to be honest, I have not seen that in Mudavadi. I mean, I could just use the case of the mock swearing in of Right Honorable Raila Odinga as the people's president. I mean, he's given all sorts of excuses, but the thing is, you need to show up.
Yeah.
If you don't show up, then there's some element of cowardice that you're demonstrating.
Constitutionally, that would not have been the right thing to do, and probably they chose to go by what the Constitution.
It's not, Linda. It's not about constitutionally.
Yeah.
It's about you have committed to a cause. You have committed to a coalition.
Oh, yeah?
The team has agreed to a way forward. So why do you chicken out in the last minute? Will you have balls to make difficult decisions for Kenya, for 47 million people, when it counts? That is the question.
Steve, can you come into this conversation? Because I'm thinking, for a moment, we have said that we've not been able to uphold the rule of law. We've not been able to uphold what is enshrined in the Constitution. And majority of leaders will tell you that, we've been bold enough to overlook some of the importance of what is enshrined in the Constitution. That's why we've done what we have done. Some of them actually, across Africa, you'd see that they've gone against the Constitution because they have stuck to the course that, I want to be leader, I want to be president for life. So no matter what the Constitution says, I'll proceed and do this. In as much as we all know that it's not right.
Linda, I have seen the issue of Mudavadi, and to start with, I think Mudavadi is a leader who lacks the charisma and aggressiveness. In 2013, we saw him go to the ballot alone, and he garnered about 460,000 votes. In 2017, he was the founder of NASA. He founded NASA himself. He brought together all the NASA principles. So we can say that he is a person who is ambitious. He is a person who definitely wants to be president or to occupy a high seat in governance. He is a former vice president, and I think that Mudavadi, the difference between Mudavadi and Raila and the likes of Besigye is that Mudavadi is not charismatic. He is not aggressive to go for it. He is not ready to break the law or to go on the wrong side of the law. I think it is because in his life he has never really been oppressed, and most of his life he has been always on the side of government. So he is not really used to being against the government or going against the wave.
All right.
And, I think also looking at how African politics is like, African leaders have a culture of wanting to remain in power. If you look at currently in Somalia, we've seen Farmajo wanting to extend his tenure up to, I think, 2021 after realizing that he has low chances of winning in the next election. And I think this is a culture that needs to be stopped. And unfortunately, the global leaders of democracy, as they call themselves, like the USA, they have failed to intervene correctly. They only intervene when their interests really suit them, like in the case of Libya. But when democracy is under siege in countries like Museveni or in other countries in Africa, for as long as that current leader who wants to extend his leadership is probably pro them or probably favors their interests, they don't really come in to intervene and bring in democracy. So I think African leaders really need to be stopped. We need to embrace constitutionalism. And that is why I say that when you see people like Maraga speaking, when you see people like the LSK chair speaking on the issues of constitutionalism and the rule of law, we really need to support them, because if we don't, then we are going to have leaders who want to extend their staying power, and there's nothing you can do about them.
Right.
Because they have already inculcated a culture of impunity.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And speaking of which, do you suppose then that Mudavadi has realized that probably he does not stand a chance? Hence, the reason why he started, crafting these cries and litigations, as has always been with of course our politicians. You'll realize that they'll start crying foul very early in preparation or psychologically preparing their supporters to acknowledge or to accept defeat in the event that it comes. I know they start saying that we're not able to make it here because of this and if this and this. In as much as he says he's staying to the course,
I think he should start by mobilizing support and voters outside his small area in Western Kenya. I mean, there's Northeastern, there's South Rift, there's North Rift, there's Coast, there's Ukambani. Can you start by mobilizing people and showing support outside your village, outside your constituency, for us to take you seriously. How are the rest of us supposed to take you seriously when you can't even amass more than 10 seats in parliament? Yeah.
Okay, and speaking of which, now let's loop in Steve briefly. Steve, she brings aboard a very pertinent point, and it's one of the questions that I wanted to ask. I mean, we see now Mudavadi is so much so focused on working together with Moses Wetangula. It's clearly a Luya affair. Where does it place the balance of the rest of the other Kenyans, as of course Vivian would ask? I mean, is it just meant for the Luya, and how will he strike that balance towards being a national leader and not a regional leader?
I wish to say that on my own view, I believe that looking at Kenyan politics, other than where we young Turks want to say that we want to take it to a national conversation that is not, that has no ethnic balkanization. But looking at it currently, if you look at President Uhuru Kenyatta, he has been really fighting and, really trying to contain the likes of Moses Kuria and those who are against him in his region. We have not seen him really out there to fight those who are really against, those who are in Rift Valley or those who are rebels in other regions. So that tells you that President Kenyatta is still a tribal kingpin. If you look at Ruto, Deputy President Ruto, he is a tribal kingpin. And that is why Musalia Mudavadi believes that to be president or even to be prime minister, just like President Raila Odinga, he is the kingpin of the Nyanza people. You have to be kingpin of the Luya people. But unfortunately, the Luya people historically or traditionally or in the past have an issue with uniting against one kingpin. There is always one kingpin on this side and another kingpin on the other
Kijana, Vivian differs with you in a way.
I have a divergent opinion. Right Honorable Raila Odinga is not a kingpin of the Luo nation. Raila has support in Masai land. Raila has support in Coast. Raila has support in Turkana.
Steve argues that, at least you should get something, 60-70% of where you come from.
It's about how you're able to draw people to you, to believe in your vision, to support you, to stand with you in every single presidential election that you have stood.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, Steve.
I think I want to differ with Vivian because if Raila Odinga didn't have his 100 or 90% votes of the Luo vote in his basket, he cannot now go to the Masais or to other tribes around the country to really ask for votes. So it is as you heard Jubilee call it, a tyranny of numbers. It is all about numbers. If you go to an election, you are looking for numbers to win. But
just how possible is it for Mudavadi to get hold of these numbers of the Mulembe Nation? We know very well that we've seen the likes of, Oparanya, the likes of actually Moses Wetangula, whom he works with, and the likes of Wamalwa, and, the say of the oldies, like Francis Atwoli, in a way,
in fact, their unity is very short-lived. Between Moses Wetangula and Musalia Mudavadi, already there's some sort of, jealousy and rivalry, which I think for now they're trying to cover up. But I can tell you, in a very short time, it will come to the fore again. And Kijana spoke about, being tribal kingpins. Even if we go by the notion of tribal kingpins. Which tribal king is Musalia Mudavadi, and why should anybody follow him? What numbers does he bring to the table? Indeed, yes, politics is about numbers, and you need to be able to bring numbers to the table. Which numbers does he bring to the table? How many people? How many votes? What does he bring? I mean, what kind of asset is he to anybody?
All right, or let alone to himself. Kijana.
I think now to answer Vivian's question, now that is why Mudavadi currently is facing this battle, because he does not have numbers and he is fighting a battle to strengthen his numbers in the region. And I want to say that it is unfortunate that BBI, being a national uniting agenda, has turned into a conversation in the Western region, where now the leaders who look to be more pro-BBI want to really assert themselves as the original or the real kingpins of the region, the likes of Eugene Wamalwa, the likes of the governor of Kakamega. And it is unfortunate that they have been violating the COVID-19 guidelines and holding meetings while Mudavadi is not being allowed to do those meetings. I think when we go to justice, it is necessary that we go with clean hands. It is necessary that if you're giving Musalia no time, then don't let Wamalwa have any time. And that's why I think
we are past the time of being given things. You want to be president, you still want to sit in your backyard somewhere in Western Kenya to be given things? That's ridiculous. You go out there and you take it. You do what needs to be done.
But just how is Mudavadi able to take it when he comes out there with an opposed, an accusing finger, calling upon the Luhya leaders and telling them that why is it that you're always waiting for the handouts coming from the president or any other angle? Why don't you maximize on what we have? So it looks like again there's so much intimidation. There's so much
But that's the thing. The guy has failed to rise to the occasion every single time.
Right.
Every time people have thought he might be a compromise candidate. Remember, way back, just before the 2013 election, when he was supposedly going to be the compromise candidate, for Uhuru Kenyatta, it was just during that time when there were issues of ICC cases. And still, he couldn't, see it through to the end.
Yeah.
Every single time, he has failed to rise to the occasion. Why should any single Kenyan trust him?
Has he failed? For a moment, he says that he's been out in the cold for 10 cool years. It's now time that he claims that position of the Luhya. And when he's out on the cold, it's evident and clear that also the Luhya nation or the Mlembe nation has been out in the cold.
That's
the Raila factor. Is it not true?
You cannot equate. Equate Musalia Mudavadi not being in government to Mlembe nation being out in the cold.
Oh, okay. Why is it then that we've had these conversations of Raila Odinga? We're not going to support you anymore as the Luhya nation because then we've been supporting you and we've gotten nothing. But that has been the talk on ground.
I mean, he doesn't speak for the Luhya nation.
All right.
Yeah, that's the truth.
Well, this is not coming from the Mudavadi,
but sentiment.
All right, Kijana, if you'd come in on this one, the Raila factor, and also being considered as, in a way, a kingpin for the Mlembe nation, so to speak. I mean, do you suppose that the Luhya nation has been out in the cold for the longest of time, and it's now that they front one of their own?
First of all, I don't think the Luhya nation has been out of the cold. In the cold, they have been having Wamalwa. As I told you, they always have someone in one side and another in the other side. They have been having Wamalwa. And, they also had, they've always had a Luhya leader in government. Now, to look at...
Playing second fiddle?
Yeah, but they have never really been the people who are sharing the cake. But they have always received a piece of the cake. Now, looking at Raila Odinga, he has always said there is some relation of him being either his mother or his father. I know his mother being a relative of, I think, one of the the historical traditional kings of the Luhyas. And I think that kind of relation, he has always the Luhyas have always seen him as one of them.
But that's just what Baba has been like. When he goes to Central, I am my brother, my so and so is married on this side. When he goes, yes, is that not what Baba has been?
It takes reinventing yourself and having some sort of charisma.
Yeah.
Baba has managed to really take over the support of the Luhya region. But, and I think now they think that we have always given Baba the support. He is not really taking power. But you remember the last time he really took power. He really considered the Luhyas by putting Mudavadi as the deputy prime minister and actually putting Ruto out because Ruto definitely was expecting to be given that role of the deputy prime minister back then. Now, looking at Mudavadi as a candidate, now away from the tribal kingpin, everybody in the country has seen that Mudavadi has been the de facto opposition leader for the last few months. He's always been out there speaking about issues
we haven't felt anything opposition from Mudavadi. His presence hasn't been felt. His contribution has not been felt at all.
But he's been on the limelight for the longest of time. And for a moment, actually, people thought, or maybe the conversation was that, are there likelihoods that he's being, shaped and prepared for the big set?
But it's not incorrect to say that he's been the de facto opposition leader.
Kijana,
what has he opposed?
I think Mudavadi has really played well. You've seen that every time there is a pilferage of public funds, or any time the president has really, there has been maybe extrajudicial killings, he's always come out. The reason as to why Vivian thinks that he's not been a strong opposition leader is that people have already been given that view of an opposition leader as someone who is violent, someone who really has to come out to the streets and do protest.
Not what an
but
opposition leader is. Opposition basically puts government in check, not necessarily violently or opposing each and everything. It doesn't mean when you're in the opposition you oppose everything that government does. If there are some things that are beneficial to the people, even if you are the minority in, say, parliament, I mean, why would you not support it?
All right.
So, I mean, being in the opposition doesn't necessarily equate to violence or opposing each and everything that the government does.
But he's been out there condemning and equally, celebrating what has been done well. And like the latest, like I have said, he's called upon the Luhya leaders to ensure that they maximize on the developmental funds that have been placed, to ensure that at least there's development felt at the Luhya.
I think maybe then it all boils down to what impact has his views had.
All right. So, Kijana, as you come back to that, is it really about him, out there to, address the issues of the Kenyans, the interests of the Kenyans, or maybe there is some truth in what has been said in terms of, preparing him and crafting him for a bigger position in 2022?
I think every Kenyan where I was heading to sees Mudavadi in law, we call it the Claf Farm Omnibus, or the reasonable man. The reasonable man is that person who really, in every case, he is the person who drives logic. And if you look at Mudavadi, he has literally been driving logic, even in this impasse on the revenue allocation. He always comes out to speak, and he has really worked on his branding, basically. It is fair to say that if you look at how he gives his press conferences and even his social media, behind that Musalia Mudavadi Center, he's really tried to work on his brand that for long has been not very well. So I think it could be 50-50. Yes, he could be prepared by the government to really come out as that candidate who is actually pro-system but doesn't look like he's in the system. Now, to take you to Congo just briefly, if you look at the current president, Tshisekedi, how the former president prepared him, because he was really pro-him, is that there was an opposition leader, an official opposition leader, but Tshisekedi was that force like Mudavadi. So what the system did is that they mistreated Tshisekedi, they even exiled him, they made him popular. They always attacked him, and he would play, victim of all those attacks. And now when the time for election came, although Tshisekedi didn't win, according to what I gather, it was easy to rig him in, having him as that popular candidate who was, being attacked by government. Every meeting he held was being attacked. Everything he did was being stopped. And so the government or the system made him popular, and he was being not being pardoned for slaughter, but being pardoned for the big seat. So it was easy to rig him in eventually. And when the president now was being expected to really extend his hold on power, then here came Tshisekedi, who was a third force. And now, although Tshisekedi is in government, the former president still controls government because his party has majority in Senate and has majority in Parliament. So I think it will be true looking at that case.
And now, speaking of which, as we get to wind up on this subject of Mudavadi, coming to you, Vivian, could his analogy be informing the confidence in Mudavadi's utterances when he says that there are some officials, there are some officials who are purporting to have been pushed by the president to frustrate him, yet it is not the president. They are just frustrating him and frustrating his bid for 2022 policy. Why would he be so confident that this has got nothing to do with the president?
Mudavadi recently said that something akin to, we will no longer carry people on our shoulders. This is in reference to probably...
The elimination briefcase carriers?
In reference to ODM or, the parties, the coalition parties under NASA. But the thing is, it is ODM that has actually been working on its knees to be able to be at the same level with ANC. You cannot compare the two. There's absolutely no way you can compare the two. And it's incorrect for him to say that they've been carrying people on their shoulders. Which people? When was ANC founded? I mean, in comparison to how long ODM has been in existence and how long the party, how the party has been able to grow and build itself into one of the biggest parties in the region.
While it was a coalition, maybe it was only right for the rest of the parties within the coalition to equally argue their case and say, this is not right. Yeah?
ANC gained from NASA because their seats they won, which absent NASA, they probably would not have gotten. Yes.
It is ANC that brought on board NASA and the rest joined in.
That is debatable.
That is debatable.
It is debatable.
All right, and we leave it at that because, yes, I agree. It is indeed debatable. And, well, I have in no capacity allowed to debate on this. But we cross over to the other bit. We'll come back to some bit of politics later. But first of all, 10,000 cases and more. And we're counting. I mean, what does
I don't
it
think
mean?
there's reason for alarm. I think we expected it, even from the very get-go when we're talking about COVID, not just in Kenya, but, worldwide. There's a curve that people kept talking about, flattening the curve and such kind of conversations. So the thing is, as you continue to test more and more people, it is definite that you will find more and more numbers. And of course, even the Ministry of Health is in agreement that the disease is now community, spread. So it's not unprecedented that the numbers are going higher and higher. But the thing is, it would be good like if government just provided a little bit more insight to the numbers as opposed to just announcing numbers every day. When you walk within the communities, the talk among the people is that this thing is not real. No one believes. Most people within communities and within urban centers don't believe that this thing is real because of how the government is presenting this case. People just believe this thing is about paying China debts. So I think the government needs to, and under the Ministry of Health, needs to maybe find a different way of communicating COVID. Just every day doing a briefing, communicating the numbers, we are past that. That fear factor, I think people have gotten past it. We want to know, how do we make money? How do we save jobs? How do we save our businesses? How do we pay our rents? How do we put food on the table for our families? Remember, children have been home, I think, since March. Meaning most parents have an extra burden of making sure they are not just engaged, but they're also, well fed. And so right now, I think what the government needs to focus on is economic recovery. We accept and we acknowledge that COVID is here, but how can we live through COVID?
All right. And Steve, coming to you, I, in a way would say, yes, it makes sense. Or Vivian has managed to put so much sense on this. And the question then would be, is there a better way, that the government can communicate this? Because this is not the first time that we are having people complaining of how the government has communicated this issue of COVID to the people. But they still have probably not changed tact at all amid all these terrible reports that are coming on board. What other better way can the government, communicate this?
I think the government has really tried to communicate this information in a way that sells fear to the masses. And for the first days, I realized that Kenyans were actually buying fear. Kenyans were keeping social distance. Kenyans were actually wearing masks in public places. They were not greeting each other. But as we went on, Kenyans got used to that message. And if you go to town today, everyone has a mask for the purpose of observing the law, but they are not wearing it correctly. People are actually handshaking nowadays. The gota kind of greetings are still sort of handshakes. I think it is time that the government also relooks at what it is doing. But I think why the president reopened was that, as Vivian is saying, it was necessary to not only look at the economic recovery after COVID, but it was also necessary to look at the economic situation during COVID, because that was what was actually ailing the people. The people didn't mind what will happen after COVID, but they were more concerned with what will they eat. And I think that's why people are all out not following the guidelines, because they are more concerned about what they will earn, what they will eat today. So I think it is time the government devised a different way other than selling fear, because now that one has failed. Now it's no time to come and tell people that if you don't do this, we are going to reclose, as the president saying that after 21 days they may consider reclosing the country. I think it is not time to now sell threats to them. I think it's time now to come and tell them to now engage in a more wider civic engagement or civic education of the masses, so that the masses can learn, what do we really need to do? Now that we've stayed with this virus and it is spreading continuously, and there is nothing we can do about that spread right now, because it has to continue spreading. It's in the community. How can we take care of our children? How can we be more careful? So I think that's the direction government should take, because I think Kenyans, Kenyans, as they say on social media, nothing really shocks them. They are used to bad news and bad news every other day. But I think, lucky for them, I don't think the COVID-19 virus has come with the intensity it had in other countries. So I think it is time we change how we communicate to our people. I agree.
But even as you say that, and as we touch on this last bit of it, why do we have to wait for the government? Why shouldn't we be shocked? Why shouldn't we be worried? Why should we question? Why?
I don't think we are waiting for the government per se, but the government in itself, as the government, is expected to lead from the front, to lead by giving correct information, to lead by, sharing stipulations that can help businesses, that can help citizens thrive. The government's role generally in this country is to create an enabling environment so that everybody can just be the best version of themselves. And when you focus on just everyday sharing, these are the number of deaths, these are the number of infections, what difference does it make to that mama mboga out there? So fine, we know that there are 10,000 cases plus. Then what? Then what? And even in the reporting, I remember there's one of the journalists who said there's a gap, because the number of infections, when you remove the number of recoveries and include the number of deaths, there's a gap somewhere there.
That doesn't add up.
That doesn't add up. Where are those people? Are they still in hospital? Have they been released? Did they get well? So, these kind of gaps are what make people question the authenticity of this information. And as long as there's a question mark on the authenticity, then trust is breached. So the next time you tell me, don't hug, don't shake hands, I question, really, why? Yeah, because in the beginning you sold fear, but we are past the fear. Then what? Right now we just want to know, what is the government doing to make sure the counties are able to, pay their workers, that businesses are able to get back to work, people can get back to their jobs. This thing of, closing businesses and putting crazy restrictions isn't helping anymore. We appreciate that the restrictions are necessary to curb the spread, but our lives are not going to stop because of COVID. Remember, the deaths caused in Kenya by non-communicable diseases, things like high blood pressure, HIV, cancer, are much higher. Floods killed more people in like a span of 2 months than the whole COVID fatalities. So it's crazy to focus all your energy on one pandemic disease when in Africa we are dealing with so many other things. We have drought, we have locusts, we have so many other things we are dealing with. And just to prevent ourselves from spreading ourselves too thin, we should just give it the right focus, but remember that it's important that the economy gets back to stability.
And speaking of giving it the right focus, we cross over to the uncertainty that now lingers within the churches. After being given a go-ahead, after praying and asking for it, yes, tupatie tafadhali. And I think I had you here last week, but we still were talking about the same thing.
And I still agree. I still hold to my views. These measures that they've put for the church are ridiculous. I 100% agree with the church. I had Jamia Mosque yesterday in the news saying they're also not going to reopen because they have capacity to have like 1,700 people with, you know, social distancing and all because of the kind of space they have. But to tell them to have 100 people, it's ridiculous. You're putting one size fits all when that's not the case. There are some very big churches, Sitam, you know, All Saints Cathedral and others, name it, that have capacity to hold thousands of people. And we've seen, you know, government gave us restrictions for weddings and funerals. But we've seen funerals where government officials have been there and there were more than 15 people and there was no action taken. So it's ridiculous and totally unacceptable to tell us that every church must have 100 people. How are you going to enforce it?
I keep insisting that these proposals were presented by the...
Linda, I don't agree with the fact that there was public participation in that thing.
And not even public participation, the church elders themselves, the religious leaders themselves are the ones
I wonder which
interests
interests they serve. Because if it's the interest of their congregations and the interest of the people of Kenya, I think they would have been more flexible. Not careless, but flexible in the sense that every religious church or setting has its own capacity. There are churches that have capacity for 200. There are some for 500. There are some for 1,000. So you cannot put a blanket measure on all of them. It's crazy. Were they not thinking? Whose interests were they presenting?
All right, and speaking of interest and all that, some of them proceeded to reopen yesterday, and honestly and clearly, it is evident that they are not able to stand. I don't know whether we still have, do we have Steve?
Yes.
Oh, Steve, yes, let's loop you in on this one. And, you know, you've had the argument by Vivienne right there. And this was my next point, that yes, in as much as there are other churches that are arguing, you know what, we're not going to open, mosques also equally arguing that maybe it's not time just yet until we review some of these measures that have been put on board. But there are others that were out there, you know, and it's like, finally, freedom is here with us. And honestly, they did not observe. I think one of us captured that. That is Mwangi Maina, you know, in a story or in a report. It was clear that it was hard to abide by these rules that were presented.
As you said, these rules and these guidelines were presented by a committee that was fully composed of, you know, clerics and church leaders. And actually, it was headed by the bishop for the Catholic Church in Nyeri County, Bishop Muheria. And I think what they were doing in the issue of 100 people capacity, they were trying to standardize, you know, all churches, whether you are big or small. They were looking at that standard number, which can, you know, accommodate social distancing. And I think as much as we have seen the churches fail, then it is quite a disappointment by the church, because we expect the church to take leadership. We've seen the church take leadership previously on the issues of corruption, a part of the church that is, that has really come out to condemn the issues of corruption. I think it is also necessary that the church comes out and takes leadership and really monitors its own situation and maintains that kind of guidelines. But just to comment about it, I think the church, the issue of 100 people, I think it was also necessary that if you are a big church, then you can have probably 3 sessions or so of 100 people for 1 hour. I think that could fit. But there is an issue I really wanted to comment about on the issue of how Kenyans behave to fear and all that. I just think that I can loop in a comment by the former presidential candidate, Dr. Jeff Kaluyu. As we were speaking, he was of the opinion that it is necessary that the government actually engages social scientists. We have a lot of sociologists and social scientists that graduate in our universities. I think it will be a very great service if they were engaged to really study and assess the kind of behavior of Kenyans to different situations and to different messages, so that we can surely determine how do we now treat them in such a situation.
All right, and as we...
Linda, let me just add something on the church issue.
Right.
For me, one size doesn't fit all. What was so difficult in coming up with a percentage, for example, saying minimum is 100, but based on your capacity, have 50%. number. Make sure you meet strict guidelines. The place is fumigated, sanitized after every service. You know, there's hand washing or sanitizer. There's temperature checks. Those are all things that people are using now in their businesses and in other sectors. Why not for the church? Whoever it is who's in that committee, I think, did not think about public participation. And okay, granted, they had the mandate to discuss this, but they should have incorporated more views of more Kenyans. Remember, this is a country with 84% Christians. More views should have been taken into account.
Well, okay, we continue following up on the same, and we'll update you on, of course, what the leaders or the church leaders or maybe the religious leaders will agree on or upon. And moving forward, we see to it whether indeed we're going to regain that full force activity at the level of the church, despite or amidst all the measures that have been put on board. And some bit of politics again. We're back to it, and the Ngilu factor and the aspect of impeachment. Here we are. She lost the bid to stop the impeachment process at the level of the county, and now the county assembly sets a date for the impeachment talks that is set for Wednesday. First of all, what are the prospects that Ngilu is going to sail through this?
I think she'll survive. And I just want to mention that as much as impeachment is provided for in the Constitution, I think many county assemblies are taking it a little too far. And, you know, there's a lot of malice. I think moving forward, there needs to be guidelines set on impeachment of governors. Maybe consider impeachment of the ticket. Like if you impeach a governor, it means governor and his deputy out. So that it curtails this thing of maybe deputy governors trying to sabotage the governors. But also if the charges are around corruption, can it be based on, you know, EACC investigations and findings, and not just malicious rumors and talks, you know, hate, for example, because it's like people are playing politics with this whole impeachment thing. If maybe you don't have, if your party doesn't have majority, maybe in the assembly, you know, they can use it to blackmail you. You either do this for us, or, you know, we will impeach you. So it's like county assembly, members of county assembly seem to be using that impeachment clause to sort of blackmail governors. Because when you look at a lot of these impeachment cases, a lot of them are not 100% merit. You know, you read a lot of malice into it. You read a lot of political fallout into it. Most of them look like they've just been sponsored by another party to make sure that the governor is frustrated. But it goes against devolution. The whole reason why we had devolution was so that, you know, counties can have more resources for the people. But if the governor is constantly fighting the county assembly members and you can't work in harmony, how are we ever going to move forward?
And, you know, just picking it up from there, which is something that is indeed attributed to some of these cases that were that have been ongoing. I mean, you had very well the likes of Waiguru arguing that, you know, that was political witch hunt. And same applies to Ngilu's case. She's out here now calling upon the residents, at least, you know, to be incorporated in this case. So at least maybe the residents would be able to speak and save her in this situation, though the courts proceeded to say that, you know, that would be impossible.
Actually, I agree. I think they should include, you know, signatures or something of voters in that, you know, county, a certain threshold. Maybe every constituency, you know, a certain threshold to be able to put forward an impeachment case. Otherwise, left to the assembly alone, and then, of course, checked by Senate. Some governors are really frustrated out there.
Well, Kijana Steve, some of the issues that have been presented on board is, of course, looking at the budgetary and, you know, allocations of fund, and also, you know, just how these funds were used in 2017, 2018, 2019, and the fact that she was summoned to Senate, probably failure to comply with the 2/3 gender rule, you know, appointments, or in her appointments, the likes of conflicts of interest and abuse of office. And of course, failed to sack Philip Momo, who was impeached at some point in time, sitting in one of the offices at the level of the county. And issues that have been presented in regards to, you know, what would substantiate this talk of an impeachment. Do you suppose then what Vivian brings on board is something that needs to be looked into, and how best can we look into this? Are we talking of a scenario where we're going to make lots of changes at the level of the Constitution, so at least we're able to, achieve proper ways and structures of ensuring that if we're talking matters impeachment, then we are doing it on the right way?
I think number one is that I agree with Vivian that we need to raise the threshold or the bar. But in the Constitution, there are things that we can't change, and that will have to remain. Mm-hmm. The threshold will have to remain, because the threshold in the Constitution is abuse of office, gross violation of the Constitution. All that is something that is viable. I think what we need to look at is the procedure of impeachment. If you look at the recall, the reason as to why you've never seen any citizens recall an MP is because of the recall procedure that is there in the in the Article 104 of the Constitution, and now in the Election Act of 2011. If you look at it and the right to recall procedure, then you find it is very complicated. Once you pick the signatures from the people, and then you present your memorandum, you have to take it first to the High Court for it to now determine whether your removal petition meets the threshold, although that was actually quashed by a court after a petition by Katiba Institute. So my point is, the threshold has to remain, but we really need to look at the issues of the procedure. Is there a way we can make the procedure, more clear and, more straight, and a procedure that actually gives justice to both parties? That is the people, the county assembly, and the governor. But now looking at the issues that Ngilu was accused of. First of all, it is unfortunate that I wouldn't like us to really talk of malice in any impeachment motion, because if we do that, then we will be impugning on the role of the county assembly in oversighting the executive. And I think that is something we need to really support. I think it is time that the county assemblies have realized their power in oversighting the executive. And I don't think we really need to, as much as we can read political malice, I don't think that Ngilu should really, go and bank on the issue of BBI or her being fought because she's a BBI person. I think there are also more internal politics now, if you allow me to delve into that. If you look at her county, Kalonzo Musyoka seems to have more members of county assembly in that assembly. He has a quite high number. And Ngilu, as you have seen, has been quite trying to create her own, individual, her own sort of, I don't know what to call it, queenpin, or her own leader of the region. And I think with that, they have been forming a certain alliance between her, Kivutha, and Mutua against the traditional kingpin, who is Kalonzo Musyoka. So I think it is also Kalonzo Musyoka trying to really assert his influence in that county and in that region. But looking at the accusations, it is ridiculous that Ngilu is accused of not meeting the two-third gender rule.
And that's something that I'd want Vivian to also weigh in.
I think if you looked at how Margaret Kobia came out to defend Waigoro's impeachment, she was all out about the common women's agenda. And Ngilu, under that guise of women leaders, and I think, I don't know how they were calling themselves, the women who were supporting BBI, they went and presented proposals on gender inclusivity. How the president should be male, if male, then the deputy should be female. So I think it is ridiculous that she is on the front line of advocating for gender inclusion in the BBI, but in her own county she has not met that. But now looking at some of these big governors, the governors like Waigoro and Ngilu, who feel that probably they are too big for their seats. If you have looked at Kivutha, it is not that he has never had issues with accountability or issues with fund management, but he has always been humble enough to attend those sessions. When called by the county assembly, he always goes to account. If called by the Senate, he always attends those sessions religiously. But we have seen the likes of Ngilu. They feel, I think, that they are too big for the governor's seat, and therefore when called upon by the Senate or the county assembly to account, they feel that they are probably being relegated to a certain level. They have a level of arrogance that we really need to fix in governance. If you go for a governor's seat, then go for it knowing that it suits your person and it suits your level, so that you treat that seat with respect. And if you are called upon to account, don't treat it with arrogance. I think most of the issues that Ngilu is being accused of by the MCAs, I think only 40% is about accountability. 60% is about arrogance and, failing to honor CEC impeachment by the assembly, failing to honor sittings. So I think Ngilu needs to calm down. Ngilu, Waiguru, and the other governors, they need to calm down to the level of Mwananchi, realize that these seats are actually closer to the people to serve the people.
All right. And speaking of getting closer to the people, of course, outright, when they work in tandem or they work well with the members of the county assembly, then it's obvious that they have gotten closer to the people as
Very
expected,
true.
though, of course, not just work in tandem and while they're doing injustice to the common Mwananchi, to Wanjiku. But speaking of the two-third gender rule, now that I would say all these other issues that have been leveled against her are subject to proper investigations and scrutiny. But this could be outright in terms of, just going straight and looking at the appointments that have been made at the county and whether indeed it's a genuine concern or not. If at all it is the case in Kitui County, what does it speak of the fight of attaining two-third gender rule? And, someone was asking me, why is it that we do not have a female governor who's elected, a female deputy governor? And true to it, looking around, there were three, may the soul of Joyce Labosa rest in peace. But, they all picked, or they all handpicked male deputy governors.
I think it's expected that they would pick a female governor running for office would pick a male because you need that support.
Balance,
You see, politics in Kenya is very patriarchal. It's still very patriarchal. So having a joint ticket with two women automatically puts you at a disadvantage when you're running against a ticket with, say, two men. Generally, in the perception of the public, two men running on the same ticket, governor and deputy, isn't an issue. But I can tell you for free, if you had two women, there'd be a bit of an issue in terms of maybe just perception, if nothing else.
How do we emancipate ourselves from that? Because that's exactly what is stopping us from attaining the gender role.
It's because our society is patriarchal, our customs, are very patriarchal. So it's something that will take time to sink in. And it's the honest truth is there are people who don't even realize it. They do not see using the gender lens. And until you point it out, that's when they'll be like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see that. But it's because of just how we are so accustomed to doing things. It takes intentional will to change some of these things. When you're in an office, to look and, with a gender lens and just be sure that not more than 2/3 of one gender is represented. It'll take time for us to, get past this and have more gender representation in public office, especially in political leadership.
And now that I had Steve mentioning the BBI card, and in a way you sarcastically laughed about it, what do you make of that? Are there likelihoods that she's going to be saved by this?
The thing is, it's not about her supporting BBI. I mean, BBI is not, I don't think it's a factor. I think what's more at play is Kamba, supremacy politics. And the truth is, Governor Ngilu got elected on a NAC ticket. And the truth is she doesn't have majority in terms of members of county assembly who are elected in Kitui County. And that makes it a bit tricky of having, a strong, solid, position as governor. It means people with other interests can easily, pull their MCAs. Remember, every elected representative is accountable to their party unless you're an independent candidate. So if, for example, your party has a certain interest or agenda they want to push, you're beholden to it. Because if you don't like it, then it means you're not aligned to what your party wants to achieve. So there's politics in play, and I think it's more to do with issues of supremacy. Remember, Ngilu ran against, I think, Governor Malombe, ex-Governor Malombe, and Musila, I think, if I'm not wrong. And so it was a difficult race because she was not running on Wiper. She's already a woman, okay, although granted very high profile because she's been in cabinet before. So I really see a lot of politics in play here. I do not discount maybe the mistakes she may have made. I mean, we're all human. We will make mistakes from time to time. But I think the important thing as a leader is to be able to, you know, reflect, sit down. If you need to have a conversation and correct some things, do it. Because at the end of the day, what we want is development for the people. Yeah.
Right. And of course, Kitui County Assembly Speaker George Ndoto has summoned Gilu to appear before the House. That is on Wednesday. We'll be following up on those proceedings. That is the 16th of July. We update you accordingly. If not able to appear in person, then she's allowed to have 2 of her attorneys, just 2, limited to 2, to go and, you know, argue this case for her. See whether she's going to.
But Linda, we remember the other time they threw out her.
Yeah, the other time addressing as councils. Yeah,
which was very, very unfortunate. I don't think that's how we should handle, you know, disagreements or divergent opinions.
Yeah.
And if really we are saying you can come in person or be represented, give a fair chance for a hearing. You know, someone is presumed innocent until guilty. We have that enshrined in our constitution.
Yeah. All right, so we wait to see how this is going to play out. Now at least they have a go ahead to proceed and join in the event that the governor herself will not be able to be in attendance. But that aside, also we still talk on matters devolution and where we are left. And there's this stalemate of revenue sharing. I think we've had a conversation with the both of you in regards to the same. But the recent twist of events is that, one, we've seen some of these senators who purport to be, you know, of counties that will be amongst the losers have held secret meetings on trying to figure out how best they are going to fight and battle these sharing, you know, proposals that are being fronted. But even worse is that there's a card of 2022 playing, because we realize that some of the senators, or a majority of the senators, are second-time senators. So they are looking to proceed to the next beat. Or even if they're not second-time senators, they're just looking to be on the gubernatorial positions come 2022. And to them, it is going to be an undoing if these monies are slashed. Kijana Steve, devolution under siege?
Well, I have to say that, number one, devolution is under siege, and I will want to delve into that issue of the allocation. Number one, we understand that no monies will go to the counties. As much as our counties have already passed their budgets, no money can be going to the counties until this revenue allocation formula issue is solved. And we have seen President Uhuru give Samuel Pogisio, the majority leader of Senate, 3 days to solve that. Of course, that really questions the independence of Parliament or Senate when they are being given. But now, away from that, we have seen that the issues that actually matter in revenue allocation are land mass. We have seen the issue of population and the issue of poverty index, amongst others. What happened is that poverty, you know, was relegated from 18% to 14% in terms of how it determines that revenue allocation, while population was raised from 18% to 45%. And that is something that has been a conversation in the BBI process, where Central Kenya leaders believe that this revenue allocation formula is going to favor their region. But unfortunately, as I told you, it is actually not the case, because Nyeri County is actually losing. The counties that are actually gaining is Embu and Kirinyaga, which are gaining about 400 million. But Nyeri County is losing about 400 million. But we have seen the frontier or the Asal County, most of them are actually losing because they have a wide land mass, but they don't have the relevant population, which now has 45% on determination. So I think it is not logical while we are talking of marginalization to now take funds from one county and take to the other. It is not logical, because you are now saying that you are now marginalizing the previous county that you are actually trying to include in that kind of setup, and now taking those funds to another county. I think it is not fair to marginalize those counties.
I'm sorry, Kijana, I don't agree with you.
All right.
You see, okay, yes, granted, population has been given a higher percentage, but it is not the only factor. I mean, there's land, there's
there are numerous
poverty,
factors that have been,
there are
yes.
numerous factors. There's agriculture,
Yeah.
you know, there's rural development, there's urban, you know. There are very many factors that they've put into consideration. It is not just the population. And the truth is, what are the funds for? The funds are for the people, for, you know, development projects or, you know, activities that can make a difference to the people. So the thing is, the key factor here is the people. When we did the census to make, it was to enable us know how many people are there that we need to provide for as a country. How many people do we need to, you know, account for and create opportunities for. So you cannot wish away the issue of population. The population issue is a huge factor. Granted, there are counties which are marginalized. We are not disputing that. But why should Nairobi, with 4 million plus people, you know, be allocated maybe a less amount than a county that has maybe 400,000 people only? The people factor comes at play very, very strongly.
More than the landmass.
More than the landmass. Because, okay, fine, you have the land, and then what?
Okay.
Kenya is more than just the land. Yes, the land is a factor, but the people are a greater factor than the land.
All right, and on that very note, Kijana, I'm afraid we might not be able to expound some more on this, but we follow up closely on the events as we await that declaration by the president. I think he called upon the Senate to figure out whatever it is that they're going to do to deal with this stalemate as soon as possible. And in the best interest of time, we might not be able to expound some more. But we leave it at that. We continue following up on the same. And once we have deliberations on board, we'll be right here to expound some more or give a comprehensive look over the same. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Vivian Tar, for your great insights on this particular program. Vivian Tar is a government analyst. Thank you so much for your time. And we also heard Kijana Steve, who's a political scientist. Thank you so much for the great insights too. Looking forward to see you some other time. And on that very note, we're going to wind up this current affairs segment as we cross over to a different segment altogether. Remember, we have the breakfast of the week for you. The tips that you can, you know, just use at this time that you're at home and ensure that you entice your family. And most importantly, we'll be having the Monday Blues feel or the Monday entertainment moment right after this break. That segment where we talk matters healthy eating, morning cafe, breakfast tips right here. And guess who's joining us again? Chef Alex. Last time was amazing, and this time it's going to be bigger and better. So what are we preparing, Chef?
Good morning. This is Chef Alex, Ashu Chef. We're going to prepare a scrambled egg with a piece of hash brown. Yeah, and we're going to give a taste of avocado on this side.
Okay, what is hash brown?
Hash brown is basically ni viazi. Tunaziongeza kitunguu, tomato, some flavors inside.
Okay.
You can add as many flavors as you want. Some chili powder, some coriander, some salt inside, some dania to give it taste. Yes.
All right, so let's get straight to it.
Let's get started. Yeah. Okay, so first step you do, we need to peel the potatoes and then boil the potatoes, half cook.
All right.
Half cook. Then we grate them like this.
That's the final, yes, after it's half cooked.
Half cooked, this is the final product.
Okay.
So what we do next is drop it inside. Okay. Now here we have the salt. Just a little pinch of salt, just to taste. Salt is to taste. This is cumin.
Cumin seeds.
Powder.
Cumin powder. Now, of course,
yes.
Grounded, yes.
Grounded. This you need a teaspoon of like a half. Coriander powder.
Okay.
A quarter teaspoon. And like a pinch of chili powder.
Okay.
Yeah. So next we have our chopped garlic inside. Then our chopped onions. Then our chopped coriander.
All right. So what's the difference of using the powdered one and the chopped ones?
This is just for flavor.
Okay.
It has more flavor than the smell.
Right.
Yeah. So we take our spoon, mix them.
All right.
Nicely. Okay. As we do this, as we continue mixing, we need to put our oil for the fry.
All right.
Ready?
And here we are.
Here. Like that. This actually goes for a service of 4.
Okay.
Service for 4. Then we need to bind this one. Yeah. So we need 1 piece of egg.
Okay.
And like 1 spoon of flour. No more flour. This.
All right.
Yeah. To bind it. Yeah.
Okay.
So there is 1 spoon.
Flour.
Yes. Just 1 piece of egg. And then in this, we need just a soft texture, yeah? Not so hard, not si ngumu sana na sio soft sana, sawa? Iko hapo tu katikati. Nice. You can see?
Look and then
you can see how it looks. So
it's going to be preheated.
Yes, we are preheating our oil. So we mix. And make sure that the most basic ingredient is salt, yeah?
Okay.
Make sure it tastes. So at this point, I need to have a little bit of taste.
It's okay.
The salt is fine. Just a little bit. Just. Done. So as we wait for oil to be ready, make sure that your hands are clean, because for the next process, we need to use our hands to mold the shape that we need.
Okay.
So I wash my hands first.
So
So how hot should your oil be?
It should be hot.
Extremely hot, huh?
Yeah. Let's have see whether it's hot. Okay. We're gonna test it whether it's hot.
Not enough.
Not enough. We need a little bit.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, a little bit. You can see it's the motion anaanza kutoka, si ndio? Sasa tunajua iko almost there, yeah?
All right.
Yeah. So what do? You're gonna put in our hands. Use our hands, mold them.
Okay. To differentiate, right?
Yes.
At this point, moto ikuwe mingi sana ama just
same.
Okay.
Same. So you just need to.
I think I need to move away from this because otherwise the kitchen is not my strength.
Mold them with your hands. You can see the texture.
Yeah.
Yep.
I need to remove that one.
Then I use it this. See? No? You can turn it up.
Alright, that's what I'll be turning when they turn brown, eh?
Yes,
okay. This one.
Okay.
And then when I turn red, okay.
Keep there. Down here, we need some serviette to absorb the oil. Same for hash brown. And then there are different types of hash brown.
Okay.
You can do the same steps.
Alright.
Instead of adding the flour and the egg at that moment.
So this is ready?
Yes.
So we can remove this?
Yes.
Okay. They should cook to golden brown, I believe,
Golden
right?
brown, yes.
Breakfast has never been this better. I think for now, maybe my family has reason to smile, or reasons to smile, because we'll get creative every other morning. That is before we step out of the house. And yes, this is it. They're called hash browns.
They're called hash brown.
Hash indeed look beautiful. I can't wait to taste them.
And then you find you go to the internet.
Yeah.
You find another type of hash brown.
Okay.
So the difference is simple.
Yeah.
What happens in the other hash brown? Instead of adding the egg and the flour directly to this.
Okay.
You mix everything
together.
Mix the egg on the side.
Okay.
Some flour on the side, and you have breadcrumbs.
Okay.
Yeah. So you dust it. You do this. You dust it.
All right.
In the egg, and then you finish in the breadcrumb one.
Deep fry.
But this, because so many people cannot afford breadcrumbs.
Okay. So necessary. You probably will have your bread on your side.
And this is done.
Okay.
Okay.
Perfect.
Perfect. Now our hash brown is ready. Now we need to make the accompaniments for the hash brown. Okay.
Alright.
So we're gonna need our 2 eggs.
Why am I worried with this eggs?
And then a little bit of salt.
Okay.
Just to give taste. So we're gonna put our pan hot.
I'll do that for you.
Okay. Our oil should be ready. Because hatutaki kukula tu ile mayai ya kawaida ati ile tunakuanga tu tumepika nyumbani tu kidogo, tuongeze flavor, si ndio? So what we do, we add some onion, garlic, and bell peppers inside. Yep. Tomatoes. And this we just cook like for a few minutes, huh? Not too much.
Wow, now we finally get what is normally seen.
Yeah. You see our eggs? Now
they're ready.
Switch off the gas.
All right.
Our eggs are ready. Okay. Now that's our egg. Scrambled and nicely.
Not so much cooked.
So much. As I say, this one, you can still add some cream, butter.
Yeah.
Make more, but we go for this.
Okay.
Even if you have milk, you can add a little bit of milk.
All right.
Yep. And the scrambled egg only. Okay.
Yeah.
Now we go.
Ready to serve.
Ready to serve. As you serve, I need my avocado.
Avocados. Okay.
At this point, I'll need my chopping board. So we are doing our presentation. Now this is our ready breakfast with hash brown, some scrambled egg and avocado, ready to eat.
The Luya in me will not allow me to take this without chai.
It's fine.
So then chai comes in.
Chai can come in, some juice can come in, coffee, chocolate, whatever you want to have.
And your breakfast is good as done. Yes. And also, we do not just wind up before tasting.
Yes. Have a taste.
Okay.
Yes.
Let me put my tea here, Plaza.
Put your tea there.
At the hash brown.
Yes.
This I can eat like this, isn't it?
Yeah, and you can also have some ketchup if you want to have it.
Yes. We're gonna ketchup mine, but it's okay. No pressure. We'll do that after you're done with this.
Yes.
Again and again, as the mantra would go, you have no reason whatsoever not to have good breakfast. Right here on Morning Cafe, we always got you covered. See you again next week. Bye-bye.
from the Breakfast Thieves. Guess what we have in store for you? It's going to be an entertainment segment. And guess who we have on board? BMK McKenna, a household name. You probably have not heard of her, or you've heard of her. She'll be here to introduce herself. A young girl who's doing so well on matters of music. You would not believe. Do you know how many of us would just want to be out there and having our songs on YouTube and everything? But this young girl has, gone against the odds, and she is doing that, and she's doing that very, very well. So I'll be introducing her to you this morning as we also take a look at some of the songs that she has done. And, we just get to get a little bit into her life and understand why is it that she's able to do this at a very tender age, at her age. I don't even think I had figured myself out. Mama, how are you?
I'm fine.
You well?
Yeah.
Good to have you here.
Thank you.
What does BMK McKenna stand? Okay, McKenna is McKenna, but what does BMK stand for?
Brianna McKenna Kinywa.
Brianna McKenna Kinywa McKenna again. All right, that's good to have you this morning.
Thank
Can you introduce yourself to the viewer and tell them what you do?
My name is BMK McKenna.
Yeah.
That is my stage name. My real name is Brianna McKenna Kinywa. I am 9 years old.
Only 9?
Yeah. And I love to sing.
How many songs have you recorded so far?
Number 1 is called Rafiki. And the second one is called Peace.
Right.
The third one is called Nakusifu. The fourth one is called Kananikega. The fifth one is called Thank You Lord.
5 of them?
Yeah.
How long? How long have you been singing?
I started going to the studio when 2019.
Oh, so in a couple of a year and so you've recorded 5 songs already?
Yeah.
That is incredible. Let's listen into one. I think I want to pick Nakusifu.
Yeah.
Yes, let's listen into Nakusifu and then we come back to discuss some more with McKenna. out of the 5?
It's properly Nakusifu.
Oh yeah, I think I love it too. I love it too. So what got you into music at such a tender age? You know, at my age, my mom would tell me, "Hakuna kuimba, hakuna sijui nini, focus on the books and everything." So who got you into music?
It was my dad.
Right.
To figure out that I can sing.
And you really can. You have a very nice voice.
When I was 3 years old, I was just following him around in the choir. So I'm a choir member at the church. Yeah. Oh, and I forgot to say that I go to Assumption of Mary Church and a school called King's School Nairobi Umoja.
Nice. They have nurtured you so well.
Yeah. And
so Daddy decided that you can sing.
Daddy said that wait first. I just keep following him around until 7 years, 8 years there. Then I went to the studio.
So Daddy pays for everything, for the studio and everything, supports you?
Yeah.
All right. I can see Mommy smiling and laughing somewhere else. Is she also supportive?
Yeah.
On your music?
Yeah.
Don't they ever get scared that maybe you might forget to focus much on matters school? Don't you ever get scared yourself?
Yeah.
You don't? How do you balance this? How do you balance school and also doing your practice? Because I have interacted with very many musicians. They tell me that you need to put so much work, so much practice. You're always supposed to be in the studio, preparing and everything. So how do you balance this with school and play also, because you also need to play out there?
If it's playing and music and studying, Monday to Friday, I go to school, but the pandemic,
Yeah, we understand with the pandemic.
Monday to Friday, I go to school. And when I go from school, I do my homework and I play with my small sister and my niece.
Okay.
Yeah. And music, it's Saturday and Sunday. Sunday is for the choir. And Saturdays for the studio.
So most of the recordings you do on Saturday?
Yeah.
And now that you spoke about the COVID-19 pandemic, there's so much time. You know, people are out here. I know you do some studies once in a while, but you have so much time. Are we expecting to get new recordings from you? Have you written new songs?
Yeah, I have 3 audios. One audio is already in YouTube. It's called Dunda.
Wow.
But
Dunda is a lot of Mdundo, right?
Yeah.
All right.
So we are going to shoot the video for Dunda this coming Saturday. And we have a song called Umetamalaki. It's still coming. And we are going to shoot a video very soon.
Who writes the song? I should have started by asking you. Are you the very same person who writes this song, or maybe you get help from Daddy and Mommy?
Sometimes I get help from Mommy and Daddy.
Which is this one that you've written for yourself?
It was Peace.
Peace.
When I was 4 years old, I remember it was not going as it is going now, the beats, but it was going peace, peace, I pray for peace when I was small, 4 years.
Yeah, so what got you praying for peace? What is this thing that you had gone through and you thought that maybe peace is the only thing you'd want at that time?
You know, I was seeing in news.
You can put that one down actually. Put the microphone down so you don't get tired. Yes, keep talking, we'll hear you.
Like when 2017 there, I was thinking, hey, Mara, there is tribalism. And you could hear at political things, at Uhuru and Raila handshake. I said, what are these wars for?
Wow.
So I decided to write that song and record it. Yeah.
All right, that's amazing. That's quite thoughtful of such a young soul like you. So your friends, how do you carry yourself around them now that they look at you as though you're a celebrity? You know, this is a big deal. This is not anything that any other child would do or any other kid would do out there. So how do you interact with your friends? How do they see you, especially when this is this kind of music? I'm sure you must have played some for them in church, in school.
Okay, in church, I'm very popular.
Oh, like you're a celebrity.
All church knows me. The priests, the Christians, the choir.
All this because of music.
Yeah,
Nice.
even when you go to a supermarket and then that person who leads the supermarket lives in near you,
Around
a neighbor.
your neighbor.
Yeah, far.
Yeah.
And then you'll hear, "Hi, McKenna. Hi, McKenna." Hi. First in church, then I remember Christmas, I performed a song. But people just
They liked it.
Yeah.
They really liked it, and they all. So how does it feel to move around and everyone knows you and everyone calls McKenna?
It feels very good.
Oh, it feels good, yeah?
Yeah.
Congratulations. And why gospel? Because, you know, you have a very beautiful voice and you're still young. Some of us, some people your age would choose to sing, you know, like, say, play songs, would choose to sing just any other songs. But you have decided to focus in the church, to focus on what is in the good book. Why?
I want to preach the word of the Lord.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That is pretty much amazing. That's nice. So you've grown up in church all through since you were born and all through?
Yeah.
Are there times that you felt like it's very hard to be in the line with church and it's very difficult because maybe of the rules and regulations? Sometimes you told, you know, when you're in church, you have to be straightforward. Have you ever felt some difficulties in that? Sometimes you want to get crafty and naughty as a girl?
Yeah.
And?
I get naughty sometimes.
Oh, yeah. Mommy should not be listening to that.
Sorry, Mommy.
Sorry, Mommy.
But thanks, Mommy, for correcting me.
Nice.
And thanks, Daddy, for figuring out and accepting that your daughter has a talent. Yeah.
So who manages you? Daddy still?
Yeah.
Have you grown to that level where you understand, you know, about managing and all that? You know, I've seen very many young girls and young talents coming up, and sometimes they need someone to manage them so that they can find shows like this one now in TV and all that. Who does that for you?
It is a company called Fanikisha. It has children who have talents like me. Yeah.
All right. All right, so you feel like you're safe at that place of Fanikisha and they're doing well towards pushing your talent out there to the world?
Yeah.
So where do you want to see yourself in, say, 5 years?
5 years? I hope that, and I trust God that I'll be still going on with music. And by 5 years from now, I believe in God that I'll be a big gospel artist internationally.
Have you been following up on the gospel stories in Kenya? Do you feel like the gospel industry and musicians are doing the right thing? Or they're doing it the way it's supposed to be?
For musicians who started gospel long ago and they are still in gospel, they are doing the right thing. But like Willie Paul, he was in gospel, but now he's in secular.
You're getting us confused.
It is not the way God wants it.
Willie Pose, I am not the one who said that. Such a young soul who said that. And I think the reason why I actually asked this question is because there's been so much talk about how the gospel industry is going, some bit of hiccups, you know, and probably they're not focused much on the gospel. But anyway, we leave it to God and we hope that God is going to sanitize his industry, right?
Yeah.
So what other song do you want to play for us today or to sing for us today?
I want Kananikega.
Kananikega.
Yeah.
Kananikega is Kikuyu.
No.
Kananikega is Meru. Kananikega, it means the baby is good or what? What does it mean?
It is a wedding song.
Okay.
Yeah, it means that the child has been good, that he or she has made the parent proud.
Wow, so how do you even know about weddings at this tender age? Anyway, we're on standby. Let's listen into Kananikega, right?
Yeah.
Yes, do you want to make your parents proud sometimes, or you feel like you've already done that?
I've already made my mom and dad proud, but I will make them again proud.
Some more.
Yeah.
Hey, that's good. Let's listen into Kananikega. master those words so well? You had a lot of practice?
Probably it's my mom and dad.
Oh,
Because, you know, wanasema, wahenga walisema, mtoto wa nyoka ni
nyoka. Look at this baby challenging me right here. It's true, by the way, they've done so well. Mommy and daddy they have done so well in raising you and ensuring that at least you know that, I don't even know whether I can speak my mother tongue that well. But anyway, anyway, I'll let me not shame myself at this point, but you've done so well. Who's that young girl who's singing along you?
She's my sister.
Oh, what's her name?
Piera Kadon.
Piera, your small sister.
Yeah.
That's nice. She sings as well, or maybe she just dances along?
She dances and sings at home.
She has such a nice voice like you?
Yeah, at home when I'm doing my chores, I just hear her singing the songs that we sing in school. I hear her. We have praise and worship at school, and I'm the leader. So I hear Sonny saying,
nice.
There at the couch with my phone recording.
All right.
I think her dream is being a musician. She's like, I wish that I would be a musician like my sister.
And wait a minute, who sings so well between mommy and daddy? Be honest, don't worry. I know you said you follow daddy to the choir, so who sings well? Who sings better between the two of them?
Dad.
So you took after dad?
Yeah.
I think you're a daddy's gal. But anyway, so what would be your message to the parents out here in terms of supporting the talents of their kids and all that? Because not every other mom would realize that the daughter can sing and proceed to help them, or not every other dad would realize that the son can sing and proceed to support them.
Parents, if they cannot balance well, just help them balance.
Yeah.
Like my parents, when I started singing, I did not know how to balance well, but my mom, something she was helping me writing songs. She'll write for me a song and I translate into my own handwriting and my own language, the kid language.
Right.
Yeah. So parents, just accept that your child has a talent and support them.
Right.
Find for him or her something to do with the talent.
Nice.
Like if she's a girl and she has a talent, like for singing, if you go to church, take her to church, let her be a choir member.
Yeah.
At least she can use her talent.
How do you get to grow your confidence now that you're talking about that? How do you get to grow this confidence to sit on screen? Do you know how many people struggle to just be in front of the camera, to dance in front of the camera alone without anyone there?
I was born with confidence.
Wow.
You know, when you're a baby, like a small one, you cannot have so much confidence.
You can put that one down.
Scared.
I keep forgetting.
You'll be scared, like you'll be lifting up like this, and then you see so many people, and you're just you feel scared, shy, but it is good to have confidence. Confidence can bring you far. Patience, confidence, the fruits of the Holy Spirit can bring you far.
That's nice, amazing. Following up with the fruits of the Holy Spirit and what God has given you in terms of gifts. That's great. That's great. What is the greatest achievement you've ever received? Like you can say now, this is achievement musically, that I've done my music. I am on TV today. That feels good. Do you know how many people wish to get such a platform, to be on screen?
Yeah.
So what is your biggest achievement since you started music?
Since I've started music, Nakusifu, I was not sure that the song will be released well, the video.
Yeah.
But
it was the first one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Rafiki was the first one.
Oh, Rafiki was the first one, okay.
Yeah, audio. I was just being shy in the booth, having low voices, low. I was not sure if this was right, but I came to find out, this is this, and this. This is called this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is working out well in favor of you.
Yeah.
Wow, congratulations. So, in terms of that song, that Kanani Kega, right?
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever seen it being sung in weddings? Or would you wish to see it being sung in weddings?
It's a married tradition. You know, it's like a bride gets out and you're just singing.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. You know, honestly, if there was no COVID, I would have hugged you so big because you're doing a good job and you're going places, and I wish you nothing and nothing but the best. Can you speak to the girls out there and to the boys out there who've got this talent and they probably are not putting it to use? I mean, what would be your message to them as we wind up and we listen to another song?
I'll start about the pandemic that you're out in the house and follow the measures to prevent coronavirus, as said with CS of Ministry of Health.
Yeah.
Wash your hands. If you're not close to nearby washing hand station, use sanitizer. Wear a mask in public places. Stay 1 meter, 1.5 meters apart. Social distance. Stay home and pray. Obey your parents. And I will just give this advice to the children who are out there, just misbehaving. You're going to play and there is corona. So if your mom is tell you don't go to play football, just listen. Because there is a verse saying this, Ephesians chapter 6 verse 1 to 3. Children, it is your Christian duty to obey your parents, for this is the right thing to do. Respect your father and mother is the first commandment, which has a promise added. So all may go well with you and that you may live a long time in the land.
Morning devotion. Great musical moments. Thank you so much, baby. You are incredible. You are good out there. If only all our children, half our children were as good as you, I think the world will be an amazing place. But all the same, we're looking to achieve that, right?
Yeah.
So, peace and thank you. We have thank you and we have peace. Which one do you want to perform for us as we wind up?
Peace.
Peace.
Yeah.
Peace is what we're going to have because we are all calling for that peaceful environment and a coexistence. Thank you so much for your time, for keeping us company from the word go up until now. I'll leave you with McKenna. She performs the song Peace. And I get to see you again tomorrow, same time, same place. My name is Linda Alela. Do enjoy the rest of your viewing. McKenna, the floor is yours.
Great.
Thank you.